All right, folks. Well, thank you for tuning in today. I'm here with my very good friend, Jimmy Gunn. Jimmy is a songwriter, much like myself, and he's a fantastic musician. He hasn't paid me to say that, but we've known each other for how long, Jimmy? About maybe 4 years now?
4 years, yeah.
Yeah, so ever since I started work at the Capstone Centre and doing training with Ros Keane, we've gotten to know each other. We've led worship together, and actually we're doing a wee tour next year with our good friend Brian Skinner, so we're very much looking forward to that. But anyway, Jimmy's on the show today to talk to us about Jesus and what Jesus means in his life. But before then, we're just going to find out a little bit about yourself, Jimmy. Do you want to tell us where you grew up and
Okay.
Yeah,
I grew up in Thurso in Caithness. I was actually adopted as a boy. I was born in Edinburgh, and I was taken from Edinburgh when I was 3 years old, and brought up with a family, like I said, in Thurso in Caithness. And that's my love for singing was there from an early age, and I was singing, in the schools and things like that as a young fella, and so that's where it started. And my guitar playing started then as well. When I was 12, I learnt the guitar from a teacher in Thurso High.
Okay.
Yeah.
Through the school.
Through the school, yeah, yeah. So I've got 3 sisters. In fact, I was just visiting one of them just now in Alness. I like to keep in touch with them,
Good.
So,
and did you grow up in a Christian home? Because so often we hear of those who come to faith. Quite often, they've come from a faith-based background.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, I wouldn't say it was a Christian home in one sense, but it was in another. What I mean is, my parents were good people, and they took me to church when I was a boy, and I had to wear a kilt one time, and I resented that. Yeah. I think someone was winding me up, but anyway, that's by and by, and they took me to the church. So, but no, it wasn't a Christian home really, but there was certainly Christian principles in it.
Yeah. And did you enjoy going to church as a boy? I know for myself it was a bit of a mixed experience.
Yeah, it was a mixed experience for me as well, John. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I have happy memories as well, of being there with the school and singing "There Is a Green Hill Far Away." Mm-hmm. And I knew that hymn was special. Yeah. And I remember my times as a young fella at the Sunday school picnics, and Jesus was mentioned and things like that. So I knew Jesus was special.
Yeah. I know for myself that when I became a Christian, a lot of the hymns or the songs that I learned in church as a young boy suddenly had new meaning for me. And actually it was so surprising how many of the words I could remember from these songs that I learned in church when I was little. So I wonder if you had a similar experience of knowing these hymns when you were older.
Yes, I would say so, yes. The likes of Amazing Grace and that,
Aye.
I mean, when you've actually experienced the Amazing Grace, it's different than just singing a hymn about it.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about how you came to faith in Jesus. How did that happen?
It happened, I suppose, I'll try and keep things simple. I'm ex-Navy, Royal Navy, and I'd seen different places in the world. I never thought much about God at all. We used to sing some hymns, speaking about hymns, John, in the Navy. And I used to love singing the hymns, in the Navy, about the sea and God and that.
Right.
I used to enjoy that, I ended up having an addiction to alcohol. And I realised that now, and I've realised it since a while. But at the time I didn't. Because I was in the Navy and wasn't everyone else, having a drink and things like that. Mm-hmm. So, drink, became a part of my life. And then when I left the RN, I was one of the guys in Invergordon, carried on my work, stuff like that, but there was still a drinking pattern in it. And then I took that into my marriage with me, thinking I was fine. And, I met a nice girl, she was good for me. She was a good laugh. She took a little drink, but she didn't take the drink like I did.
About Katrina.
Yeah, Katrina, yeah.
So tell us, how did you and Katrina meet? How did you get?
We met in the youth club in Invergordon.
Okay.
Yeah. I was there with a good friend of mine playing the guitar, funny enough.
Mm-hmm.
And my friend came over. And
you were in the Navy at this time?
No, I was out of the Navy by that time.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And my friend came over and introduced me to this girl. And we started going out after that. Maybe she liked somebody that played the guitar,
Yeah.
So we had a good relationship, really good, in our younger days. Yeah.
So you once told me when we were on tour a couple of years ago, a funny story about Katrina. I don't know if she'll mind us sharing or not, but it had to do with the night you became a Christian, or the day you became a Christian, and you went home to Katrina and you told her something that she wasn't too pleased with at the time.
All right.
You remember what that was?
Did I call her a sinner?
You did. And I remember laughing because of all that you'd told us that you'd done.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm not surprised you didn't take that too well, Jimmy.
Yeah. It's a wonder I survived that, eh? Yeah. Well, I knew I was a sinner. I was just trying to explain rather than call her a sinner, But it didn't go down too well, But that was just a young, immature, Jimmy, early in the faith,
Yeah. So tell us about what took you over the threshold from being someone who was brought up with Christian principles and going to church to actually being someone who wanted to follow Jesus with their life. Mm-hmm. Jesus had made such an impact on you that you wanted to follow him.
Okay. Well, after the dark time in our marriage, when we were separated, and I went into rehab in Inverness, and after I came out of rehab, I was going to AA meetings, and I got sober. I managed to get sober, but as my sobriety carried on, I heard people speaking about God. At the meetings and that. And I knew in my heart that I had to find this God, but I didn't know how to do it, So I was asking people questions and things like that. Some people had to tell me to slow down, and take it easy, and that it would come, the faith would come. I was in too much of a rush, So I did that. I started listening to other people. That was a change for me. One night when I was on my digs in Inverness, I was just going to sleep, and all of a sudden I experienced God's presence in the room, and it actually overwhelmed me, and I was quite afraid at the time, but then, I heard this word's been said to me, don't be afraid, and that's words right from the Bible, Mm-hmm. I would never have said that to myself, don't be afraid, Jimmy, So that was spoken to me, that words, and this peace came over me after the initial experience that I had, and this peace fell on me, and I could have stayed there forever, to be honest.
Yeah,
it was beautiful, and
so you would say God met with you,
yes,
in a special way,
in a powerful way, yeah. And in the morning when I woke up, I just got on my knees. I got out of my bed and I just got on my knees, and I just thank God that that he was real.
Yeah.
So that made a profound effect on me.
Would you say at that time, because you said that you were pushing quite hard in your faith, and people were saying slow down? Would you say there was an element of you just seeking hard after the Lord?
It was, yeah, it was.
It was Jesus who said, if you seek with all your heart, you shall find.
Yes.
So that was, you would say that was true for you, because it seems like after that period of time, God came crashing into your life in quite a powerful way.
Yes.
Now that may not happen for everybody in that way.
No, that's right.
But nonetheless, you were seeking hard, and he did honor that and come and meet with you.
Yes. And also, I would say, as the days went on, John, that he showed me that I couldn't accept just God, the Father, without accepting God the Son.
Yeah. Okay.
So that revelation came to me, and that was from the Lord too, I believe. And
how did that come about? Was that a conviction that you had, or was it from reading the Bible, or was it?
No, it was just as if God spoke it to me. Yeah. Revealed it to me.
Yeah.
You can't have God the Father
without the Son. Yeah.
The two go together.
Yeah. Yeah, and the Father is revealed in the Son. It was Jesus that said to one of his disciples, "If you've seen me, you've seen the Father." So the Father and the Son, although different persons, are so synonymous with one another that to have one is to have the other.
Yeah. So at that time, will I just carry on?
Yeah.
At that time, I was visiting an old friend of mine, an old war veteran, who was into sobriety as well. He was over 20 years sober, And he used to help me a lot and guide me, if you like, God used him, I believe, As you know, God uses people in your path and that, And I told him what had happened to me. And he said, Jimmy, he says, I think I know a man that can help you with this. And I says, okay, who would that be? He says, he's the Reverend Fergus Robertson from Dalney Church of Scotland. I think you should arrange a meeting with him and have a chat with him about things. So I did that, and I went to meet this chap, Fergus Robertson, the minister there, on a cold November's night, I think it was. I don't think I'll forget that night. But it was just himself and myself, and we had a good talk about Jesus. And he said, I gave him some of my background, and then he said, "Do you know, Jimmy, you could become a Christian tonight if you want." And I thought, no one's ever said that to me before, And he says, yeah, it's simple, he said. It's like A, B, and C. If you admit that you're a sinner, if you believe in the Lord Jesus Christ, which I did, really, although I didn't live as if I did, from a childhood I did, and if you count the cost, he said, think of what you're doing. So if you believe that things, then you could become a Christian tonight.
It's amazing because that experience of ABC, I've shared with you my testimony before about how someone gave me a piece of paper with the words agape written on it. And one of the things I always tell people was there's this piece of paper with the word agape written on it, and underneath it, the letters A, B, C. And I always tell people when I'm sharing my faith, I don't know what that meant. Nobody's ever said to me before these words A, B, C, like you have just done. What was it you said? You admit
well, I am a sinner.
That you're a sinner.
Believe in the Lord Jesus Christ.
And
count the cost.
Count the cost. So I would imagine that was probably what that guy was trying to communicate to me when he left me that piece of paper. So isn't it funny how the Lord can use these things? And even today, you're sharing that testimony with me, and you've potentially revealed something that I wasn't aware of in my own testimony now in hindsight. So that's really amazing. So you're quite involved in the local church here in Roskeen Free Church. How did you end up being involved in Roskeen? And I know you've talked to me before about finding a mentor in the Reverend Kenny MacDonald, who used to minister here a while ago. You were quite active in the 80s as well, I gather, with your guitar and playing psalms and doing music ministry tours and that. How did all that come about?
Well, I would say, when me and Katrina got back together again, because it's always important to mention that, what God can do, even in marriages and that. I was looking for a church to go to, and I went to the Baptist church in Alness, to try that, and I liked it. I quite liked it. But then I'd heard that our good friend Roy McGregor had become a Christian,
right?
And I knew Roy from my past, from the golf club and that, seen him there, and football and things like that, because we played football, Roy and myself. Anyway, so I made contact with Roy, and Roy said to me, Jimmy, you should come to the Free Church and give it a go. You've got to meet this guy, Kenny MacDonald. And I says, okay, let's do it. So Roy introduced me to Kenny MacDonald, and I liked him straight away. You can sense with a person,
Yeah.
He was like, a rough diamond of a minister, if you like, but, he had a joy about him and a love in his heart. You could tell straight away. So that's how I started going to the Free Church at Roskeen.
So Kenny had quite an impact on you, didn't he? You were talking about that love in his heart, and obviously he had a great love for Jesus.
Yes.
And I still meet people around this area in Alness. I never knew Kenny myself, but people who've been impacted by his life and his witness. So Jimmy, it's been really good to hear your story, and I'm sure there's so much more to tell us. But one question I want to ask you is what would you say to people at home listening to this, that are hearing your story, that are hearing about how you found Jesus, or should we say how Jesus saved you and fixed your marriage and saved you from alcoholism as well? What would you tell them is so great about Jesus? Why should they want to have Jesus in their lives the way that you've got Jesus in your life? What difference does it make day to day?
I think just the knowledge that Jesus is always going to look after you in this life in many different ways. He gives me the grace every morning when I pray to him, when I ask for the strength every day. He gives us guidance in our lives. He protects us from all things. Sometimes when we're unaware, even. And, he's just so special because he's God in the flesh.
Yeah.
And that's what I've learned, and he loves me. And not just me, because that would be selfish. He loves you as John,
Yeah.
And he loves all those that will come to him, in faith, and of course it's not just for this life, and even Kenny would say that, what's the sense of living, a life,
Yeah, was it Jesus said, what is it to gain the whole world and forfeit your soul?
Yeah. So we're going to be safe in eternity as well.
Yeah.
And the full gospel picture, as you know, John, is that Jesus is coming back again.
Yes.
And that's our massive hope in this troubled world, Yeah.
And there is a lot of trouble in the world.
Of course.
And it's important to be talking about life beyond death, because I think a lot of people are waking up to the fact that we are mortal.
Of course.
I think whether it's been brought on by the coronavirus pandemic or whatnot, but I've certainly found in conversation for many people, the barriers around faith and religion and talk about God are beginning to come down a little bit, and people are just a little bit more open to discussing faith in Jesus. Well, I think it's wonderful what you've shared with us about Jesus being, your protector, giving you guidance and giving you help and loving us and supporting us. But I think the best thing that you said there as well, in addition to all these benefits, is you don't just get the benefits, but you get God.
Yes,
He's God incarnate. He's what we were made for.
Yes.
And in him we find our wholeness and our fullness and our greatest joy.
Yes.
In him.
Yes.
And so, I know from my own experience that no matter how hard things get, and things do get hard.
Of course, and for me too.
And even if you lose your happiness, there is still joy that comes in knowing Jesus, even through the hard times and the sad times.
Yes, of course, that's right, that's right. And because he was a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. So when we're like that, he understands us because he's been there.
Yeah. And of course, we're sitting next to a Christmas tree here. We're thinking about Christmas, and that is part of the message of Christmas is God incarnate comes down and is born in a stable trough, into lowliness, into suffering, into hardship, sharing in our curse to ultimately redeem us from it and lift us from it and to restore all things. That's the amazing hope that we have in Christmas.
Amazing hope, and it's a joy, isn't it? We can experience the joy as well.
So you before we go, I'm hoping Jimmy's going to share one of his songs with us. He's a brilliant songwriter, but he also likes to put music to the Psalms, which is something we share in common a little bit. But you talked about going to sea when you were in the Navy and thinking about God and singing hymns and things like that. You've got a psalm that you sometimes sing when we're out on tour. Could you tell us about that psalm? I could sing to you the first line, but I wouldn't do it justice. So
it's Psalm 107, John. Who go to sea in ships, and in great waters trading be. And the psalm is about the journey of a sailor, if you like, and then there's a spiritual aspect to the psalm as well, where the sailor comes into difficult waters, and it's really speaking then, about someone who has got a problem with drink, for example, alcohol and that, so the real and stagger like one drunk is one of the lines.
I can, and you would have related to that at the time too.
Yes, of course,
with your struggles.
Of course, yes. But then they come to know the peace, the peace of God, and the safe haven that's there. If they turn to Him, they cry out to Him, and I cried out to God, in this very town, and I believe He heard that, so He hears us.
I would imagine there are many people who maybe have a somewhat of a belief in the divine or in God, and have a struggle with alcohol and stuff. Would you have a message for them? Would you be able to share with them a little bit about the hope that Jesus could give to them?
Okay. Yeah, okay. Well, the thing is, it is a journey, John, that we're talking about, and it's the same for someone who's seeking, and it's I would say, try to speak to someone about it, about their trials and their struggles, and then maybe they could get some help from a group. The Road to Recovery group, for example, which we're involved in. There's AA groups as well. So God can reach people in all these groups. It doesn't have to be one specific group.
No.
God works in all these groups, revealing Himself, but the first thing is to learn, this is my experience, to learn about the problem first, before I was ready to experience Jesus. So I was learning about my own problem, and my own need of Jesus Christ.
And you're not going to realize that Jesus is medicine for the soul until you realize that you're sick.
Sure.
or there's a
Sure.
problem to diagnose, you know?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Right. Yeah.
Well, look, first of all, Jimmy, I want to say thank you so much for doing this and sharing your story today. We're going to hopefully hear Jimmy in a wee second playing to us that very song. They go to see.
Who go to see. Yeah.
So one of Jimmy's favourite psalms, and certainly one of my favourites that he likes to sing. So thanks for joining us today, folks. I hope you've been encouraged by what you've heard in Jimmy's story here. We'd like to do some more of these in the future, so we'll keep you posted. Remember to subscribe to our videos on YouTube, and get in touch if you'd like to sign up to our newsletter as well. But thanks for joining us this afternoon, Jimmy.
Thank you, John.
All
Thank
right.
you. Thank you.
Who go to sea in ships and in great waters, trading deep. Within the deep, these men God's works and His great wonders see. For He commands and forth in haste the stormy tempest flies, which makes the sea with rolling waves aloft to swell and rise. They mount to heaven, then to the depths they do go down again. Their soul to faint, melt away with trouble and with pain. They reel and stagger like one drunk. At their wits' end they be, so they to God in trouble cry, who them from straits doth free. The storm is changed into a calm at His command and will, so that the waves which raged before now quiet are and still. Then are they glad because at rest and quiet now they be, so to the haven He them brings, which they desire to see. Oh, that men to the Lord would give praise for His goodness then, and for His works wonder done unto the sons of men.